Hello, welcome back to Levant TV Headlines. UN investigators say the Syrian government and mainstream opposition must seek compromise to end 3.5 years of bloody civil war and block the rise of murderous jihadists. Turkey's military is mulling the prospect of establishing a buffer zone along its border with Syria and Iraq amid the escalating threat posed by Islamic State extremists. And Israeli police says it has arrested 22 Palestinians in annexed Arab East Jerusalem overnight on suspicion of throwing stones and petrol bombs, including 13 minors. Qatar has hit back against accusations by Libya that it supplied weapons to rebels in the violence-plagued North African nation. And Iran and 6 powers are to resume in New York negotiating a potentially historic deal to ease fears that Tehran might develop nuclear weapons after 12 years of failed diplomacy and rising tensions. And now let's have a look at top headlines in today's newspapers. Starting with the Egypt Independent, which leads reporting that 6 policemen were killed today morning as an armored vehicle carrying civil protection forces was targeted with an IED on the Rafah Arish road on North Sinai. The paper also reports that the family of Muslim Brotherhood figure Salah Sultan has called on authorities to release their son, who was transferred to the intensive care unit of Torah Prison Hospital for the second time within 48 hours due to his bad health condition for being on a hunger strike for the past 233 days. And from Beirut, the Daily Star reports that the Lebanese army clashed with fighters from Nusra overnight as the militants sought to cross into Lebanon after suffering heavy casualties in clashes with the Syrian army. The paper also reports that the United Nations has said that world powers preparing military action against the ISIS fighters must respect the rules of war, requiring them to protect civilians and be proportionate in their strikes. And the UAE's Khalij Times leads reporting that the world's top diplomats pledged to support Iraq in its fight against ISIS militants by, quote, any means necessary, unquote, including appropriate military assistance, as leaders stressed the urgency of the crisis. The paper also reports that the Roads and Transport Authority is planning to float tenders next month for execution of 2 road projects costing 1.7 to 2 billion UAE dirhams. And now let's take a look at the top Middle East headlines from papers here in the UK. The Independent leads Middle East section reporting that the US has bombed Islamic State fighters near the Iraqi capital Baghdad as its expanded operation against the extremist group begins. The paper says US intervention has been welcomed by international allies, but it was condemned by Iran as a ruse to dominate the Middle East from a country with corrupted hands. The Telegraph reports that an exodus of international aid workers from the Turkish-Syrian border has been triggered by the rise of Islamic State in the region over the past year. The paper says barely any have returned on a permanent basis, even though ISIS has receded to its strongholds to the west in Raqqa. Also from the UK, The Guardian reports that campaigners for Scottish independence have found an unexpected source of support ahead of a landmark referendum on the fate of the UK Palestinian bagpipers. The paper says as they long for their own Palestinian state, the band members say they support those Scots seeking to break away from Britain in the historic referendum. And now let's take a look at top MidEast headlines in international papers. From the US, the New York Times reports that after a series of verdicts that have disheartened democracy activists in Egypt, there were rare images of celebration in a Cairo courtroom when a judge ordered the release on bail of 3 prominent dissidents imprisoned for attending a protest last year. And finally, from Germany, the Deutsche Welle reports that the US has bombed a suspected Islamic State target near the Iraqi capital Baghdad, the first airstrike close to the capital in the current campaign, as world leaders in Paris pledged to fight ISIS by any means necessary. That was it for today. For more updates, visit our website levant.tv. Thanks for watching. Be sure to join us again tomorrow, and bye for now.